Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. If you are new, welcome. I invite you to subscribe, not only so you can help Melissa, where is she? Lucifer, he, and Nana, and Grumpy Cat, may he rest in peace, reach 100 subscribers so I can get, the infamous 100 subscriber YouTube plaque. More than that, by subscribing to my channel and sharing specifically this type of content really does help to spread the mission of #HappyPeriod to a larger audience, and just to in sharing it, it also helps to disseminate the issues around menstrual equity, gender inequality, access to menstrual hygiene to a larger audience. So again, I invite you to share, to subscribe, and if you already have, thank you so much. It really does mean the world. If you are new to the channel, I'll say it again, we're always here talking about one of three things: film and TV reviews, Disney, cheers, or periods. Today we're back talking about periods. I was looking for content to post on our social media channels, and you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. If you have a moment, give us a like and a follow. We are Happy Period Bay Area, especially if you're interested in getting involved on a volunteer level. If you're local, all of our event details are always posted there first. Anywho, I digress. I was looking for content to post, and I happened across a video article by The Guardian, and I'll link all of this below. And it was entitled "How Period Apps Are Making People Rich," and it's a great 8-minute watch. I highly recommend you take the time to watch it, especially if you're a woman who is using any type of femtech or applications to track your menses or your fertility. It is really eye-opening. So that's what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about how femtech, let's take that from the top. We're here to talk about the implications of using femtech that maybe we haven't thought of. So femtech is like the umbrella term that refers to period tracking apps, fertility tracking apps, anything tech-wise that accumulates and acquires data that you input into said app or tech or whatever, and is supposed to feed back to you information on your cycle, your fertility, etc. The great point of this Guardian video article, what have you, is that there are implications to utilizing femtech for whatever your reasons that go beyond what you may have thought about in the past. So I just invite you to do a little bit of due diligence if you are using any of these apps, and just make sure that you're comfortable with the brand that you're working with, utilizing, etc., and just be aware of the broader implications of inputting such personal data into femtech applications. So with that being said, this all kind of got kicked off back when Apple and the iPhone and the iWatch or the Apple Watch, whatever, started providing their health app, which went beyond the pedometer and like tracking your steps to tracking everything down to like your sugar intake and your sodium intake. The one thing that Apple's health app didn't do, and I'm actually not sure if it does now because I don't use that app, so comment below if you know, is it didn't give any information on tracking menstrual cycles. So, there was an outcry. I don't know if it's been rectified, but that was kind of the beginnings of the the acquisition and the dissemination of personal health data on such a individual personalized level. So this article on The Guardian talks about the fact that there are roughly 100 million women right now. Now, it does not specify if this is domestic or international, but they say that 100 million women are currently using some sort of application to track their period. We're not talking about fertility tracking. We're just talking about menstrual apps that track your menses. Now, what I did was I looked up, I went down the rabbit hole, as it were, and I looked up information about how many women were using fertility apps or any type of femtech to track their situations. I happened across a Politico article, and again, I'll link all of this below. And the Politico article actually references a poll where they looked at 73 different apps, and I believe these were a combination of menstrual tracking apps and fertility tracking apps. And the best app, meaning the one that they ranked as having the ability to feed back to the individual user the most information and the most accurate information, was only 21% accurate. So out of 73 menstrual tracking apps that were surveyed, the best one was only 21% accurate. So that kind of took me aback. And it made me think about this new company, which you may have seen on Instagram. I posted about it there. I posted about them on our Happy Period Instagram and Facebook, because I think what this particular company has done is create something within the realm of femtech that might be able to provide a higher level of accuracy, number one, and number two, because it's founded by two young women, I feel like it might be a product less inclined to have alternate agendas. And that company is Kegg Tech, K-E-G-G Tech. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and of course, they reached their Kickstarter goal within like 48 hours. So they're in pre-production, and it's basically a Kegel-style egg that you put inside of you, and it links to an app that in turn tracks your fertility. So that's what came to mind when I was thinking about femtech. Like, that was the first thing, because I was super excited about Kegg Tech. I've been following these two young women and how they've brought this from like just the inception of this idea to production. So I'm excited about the prospect of what that can glean and provide to women in the future. But ultimately, these apps and these various technologies are collecting this data, whether it's just you on your iPhone and you have your health app, and you're utilizing that. That data is being utilized, it's being aggregated, and it's being sold. So anyways, I digress. In 2018, the Politico article states that in 2018 alone, investors invested $304.5 million in femtech companies. What a lot of these apps are doing, and this is showcased in the Guardian video, is in addition to soliciting you to input your data about your body and your physiology, which is obviously necessary if you want feedback on your menstrual cycles or your fertility cycles, they are doing things like polls and surveys, and they even go so far as to point out that it's like a social media experience. Like, it's going beyond just providing you physiological feedback. It's actually giving you a social media experience. Is that necessary? No. So they were saying that some of these polls are asking questions like, what's your favorite brand of period underwear? What's your favorite type of fabric underwear? Do you douche? This information is clearly not pertinent to your menstrual cycle or your fertility cycle, but they're still finding ways through the guise of social media to solicit that information from you. Where is that information going? So one of the women that is being interviewed in the Guardian video, who does some sort of coding analytics, is saying that these apps are not aggregating. If they are aggregating the data, which we know that they are, they're not providing the data back to the end users, us, the individuals who might be using these apps. So we're not getting any high level even, or specific analytics on what the aggregated data is reading and finding out about women across any type of control group. The data is just not coming back. There's no analysis coming back. The only information that these apps are giving back is when a woman is menstruating and when a woman is fertile, which is very, very dystopic and handmaids to me, because although we want that information as individuals, the fact that the only data that they're looking at on their end is when feels a little too creepy. Feels a little too, I don't care how you voted, it's what your politics are. This is very dystopic. I'm not into this. It reminds me of like skits from certain comedy shows, like where when like Dwight in The Office, when he like knows when everybody's bleeding. It just I can't. So they go on to say, sorry it's hot, y'all. They go on to say that there's 4 ways, or 4 places rather, that the aggregated data is going, 4 places it's going or being sold to. So one avenue is it could be sold directly to a corporation. The second is that it could be sold or shared with a third party. Now that third party could be a Facebook, it could be another social media moment, it could be anything. So the woman that is hosting this video on The Guardian on this topic, that's taking us through this moment, says when she was playing around with one of these apps, she doesn't name which app, she puts in her basic information, and then lo and behold, she goes on Facebook shortly thereafter, and boom, of course we know this is how targeted advertising works. All of the ads were centered around fertility or menstrual tracking in some form or fashion. So that's what they mean by sharing with third parties, and we know how quickly that works, right? Like we're online, we're looking at a pair of shoes, or we're looking at an appliance or something, and then like 10 seconds later we're on a completely different platform, and there it is waiting for us to purchase it. So those are the first 2, sold to a company or sold/shared to a third party. The third is it could be sold for research, which is like the least exploitative option, or not option, but outcome of collecting this data and propagating it, right? Like it can be used for research, hopefully for the betterment of society, but again, you know, #Handmaid's Tale. And then the fourth, which was interesting, is that the aggregated data is basically formed into these profiles. They don't go into very much detail on what they mean by a profile, but it's basically like this amalgamation of generic data of what normal is, and then they sell those profiles. So again, this is like a whole rabbit hole that one can go down, and it's just very creepy, and it's just very important that if you are using these apps, again, that you do a little bit of research, find a brand that speaks to you, and that is reputable, that has some history, that has credentials, that has you know, a history of data or analytics that it can provide. But the Guardian video also goes on to talk about how this is like not a new thing, right? Like it's a new manifestation insofar as that we have all this technology at our fingertips, but they use the word or the phrase silent partner, that we've been as women silent partners in this kind of monster that's been growing in the closet for decades. And they talk about how the collection of this data, especially now that they can get so much of it and in such detail, I mean, they're asking women if they're douching. I mean, they're taking this information, and those targeted ads are designed explicitly, obviously, to sell us shit that we probably don't need, right? Cosmetics, clothing, and then that goes into the whole conversation of like self-worth and body image and shit that women, and everybody, but women especially, have been victim to in some of the most exploitative and invasive ways since the inception of advertisement. So you have this marketing and advertising ploy happening, and what's so amazing about this 8-minute video from The Guardian is they name so many things. And towards the end of the video, they're speaking with one of the folks that they're interviewing, and this woman is saying that this targeted advertising is really designed to literally trigger and incite the competing or competitive aspect that women or females have, maybe in general, against or towards other women, but just specifically that gets amped up when we're hormonal, which is when we're ovulating, when we're most competitive against a potential other woman, another breeder, like taking our opportunity for viable sperm away from us, like she even cites like non-human apes as an example when they are in a particular moment in their cycle in between ovulation and menses, they get hyper aggressive, right? Especially towards other females. The competitive factor is still in us at a biochemical level, on an unconscious level. No matter how much women love other women, there is still something that hormones activate, and these ads are designed to trigger that competition. And what's more is when you're in the 14 days between ovulation and menses, your progesterone improves. The production of your progesterone spikes, right? Because you're getting ready for potential pregnancy. And progesterone is a hormone critical to a viable and healthy pregnancy. What progesterone also does, though, is it incites and it sparks and it triggers that nesting in women that they experience, whether they are ovulating or, getting ready, they're PMSing, or they're obviously pregnant and getting ready for a baby to come. Even women who are adopting nest, because the body will still trigger hormones. And even women that aren't expecting baby, like we still go through like nesting moments in between ovulation and menses. Like, I need to rearrange the house, I need to do this, I need to fix that, I need to decorate, I need to buy shit. Like, it is a real thing, and this content, these ads are designed to trigger that so that they get, obviously, more bang for their buck. So that's pretty much it. I think I'll link the Politico article because it's pretty amazing. The Politico article found one startup called Glow, which is is it a fertility? I think Glow is a fertility tracker. But anyways, Glow was one of the ones that had like closer to a 40% accuracy rate. So, there are companies that are doing better and trying to do better. I'd be interested to see like a breakdown, and if anyone has access to this information, please comment. It'd be interesting to see a breakdown of how many of these companies are owned by women, how many of these are actually run by women, and how many of the products themselves, whether they be apps or like physical things rather, like keg tech that go into your body to collect the data directly from the source rather than inputting it into an app. How many of these companies, from inception to production to marketing, have females, women running this that actually understand what's going on? And then you have, the whole conversation about like the algorithms and this, that, and the other bullshit. The problem with getting information back from these companies that the Politico and the Guardian article talk about is that a lot of these companies will cite that their algorithms are proprietary, so they're not, beholden to the public to give any data beyond when are you menstruating, when are you fertile. And the last thing the Politico article talks about, which is really interesting and really a larger conversation maybe for another time, but it does bear bringing up now, because a lot of these apps are marketed in such a way, and their user interface, their UI is designed in such a way that it's sold to women as almost a method of birth control. Like, we're going to tell you when you're on your period, we're going to tell you when you're ovulating, we're going to tell you when you're fertile. So like, you don't have to use a condom, or you don't have to take birth control, or you don't have to do this and that because the app said you're good to go. Well, no, it's information, it's not birth control. So there's just a lot to unpack here, but the reality is, and especially, especially and unfortunately, as somebody that's been living in the Bay Area and has been working in tech sales for the past 9 years, this is the paradigm that we're living in, right? Like, corporations have always exploited individuals. That's not going to change. But this movement and this access to this information is really amazing, to know exactly when you're ovulating, exactly when you stop, when you're about to start your period, when you're going to be fertile. Like, all of this information is really great for women that want to really get to know their bodies more intimately, and to family plan, or to, family not plan, but at the end of the day, this information is not stored in a paper file cabinet somewhere. Like, it's being aggregated, it's being collected. They're soliciting you on an unconscious level to give them information that you don't need to give them, that has no bearing on your menstrual or fertility cycles, and they're selling that data in order for other companies to sell you shit you don't need. And they're doing it when we're at our most vulnerable, when we're hormonal, when we're triggered, when we're unconsciously, when our unconscious is activating, or our subconscious rather, is activating those hormonal triggers that date back to the dawn of humanity, right? Like survival, procreation, finding a mate. Those triggers and those chemicals and that wiring is being manipulated by advertisers, by marketing, by corporations, to put us at odds with each other, and to make us feel less than, and to ultimately, sell us shit that we don't need. So I would really like to hear what products, what apps you guys use that you feel work, that you're comfortable with advocating for, ones that you've had successes with, but especially the ones that you've had like failures with, not just in terms of, hey, the app doesn't really work, but also like, this company has a bad reputation. Like, let's start disseminating this information and sharing it, even if it's in like YouTube comments, because we know how powerful those can be. So let's start aggregating our own data and disseminating it amongst ourselves so that we can be better informed, healthier, physiologically, psychologically, spiritually. And, let's also try and maybe do what research we can when we are looking to download an app or purchase a quote-unquote femtech product, and maybe look at ones that have women driving or steering, the ship. Because not that women aren't exploiting other women, not that women-owned companies aren't exploiting individuals, but maybe let's try and find the lesser of all evils in whatever form or fashion we can. But yeah, please comment below. Let me know if you found this informative, if you already knew this shit. But yeah, again, please subscribe and share. It means the world to me, but also I think it's important, especially, again, Disney's fun, film and TV is fun, but this is the content that's the most important. And as I say that and get really serious, this bitch is gonna come over and do this, right? Like, on that note, I love you guys. Cheers. I'll see you on the other side.